Distinguished members of the press, today I'm very pleased to host my distinguished counterpart, Foreign Minister Lavrov in Ankara, and I would like to say welcome to him and the accompanying delegation. Distinguished colleagues, the global and regional dynamics are changing very rapidly, and each and every day we're coming across new challenges that we need to fight against, and we are coming across new opportunities that we need to pay attention to. In such an area, the indirect and direct developments that we need to pay attention to make it important that we need to increase our consultation and coordination between Turkey and the Russian Federation. In relation to the targets that our President and President Putin are targeting, we need to actually deepen the cooperation in bilateral issues and international matters. With this understanding, we had productive deliberations with Foreign Minister Lavrov today. We dealt with the bilateral agenda in a detailed manner, and we also discussed as to how to advance our cooperation further. From energy to tourism, from commerce to energy, we can actually deepen our relations. The multilateral cooperation with the contribution of the relevant institutions can actually further be deepened in various fields. Distinguished members of the press, today is the third year of the war between Russian Federation and Ukraine. We want both our neighbors to live in peace, welfare, and the further stability, and we need to see the end of loss of life and destruction that war is causing. This war is actually affecting the various geographies, including the global south, in a negative manner. This multidimensional crisis, we want to see the end of it with a permanent solution. Since the first day, we want to see the solution of this war through diplomacy, and immediately after the clashes started, we actually gathered the parties through a peace table, around a peace table in Istanbul for the first time. And we initiated the Black Sea grain deal in a successful manner. We actually conducted the diplomatic efforts to reach the peace effort in many different stages. Today, we are seeing that the United States is actually starting a new initiative that wants to see the war coming to an end through peaceful initiatives. And this overlaps with our policy that we have been conducting since the beginning of the war. This new initiatives of the United States is a result-oriented approach, and we attach great importance to it. And we do believe that the result can be achieved with negotiations that both parties can participate in. Within this framework, we will be ready to support the establishment of peace through all negotiations. And as before, we are ready to host negotiations. We are also conducting our initiatives to reach safety of navigation in the Black Sea. And we believe that this is going to be a confidence-building measure if this is established. Our final target is to establish a permanent peace between our two neighbors. Distinguished friends, in order to establish a permanent welfare in our region, we believe that the recent developments in Syria is bringing hope to our region. The Syrian people have actually ended a 60-year persecution regime, and now they want to have a stable and peaceful country that has peace with its neighbors. And then during this process, as Turkey, we will be siding with the people of Syria. Today, with Foreign Minister Lavrov, we undertook the developments of Syria in our deliberations. And we believe that the territorial integrity and unity needs to be kept in Syria. And we do believe separatist movements should not be allowed. On the other hand, the terrorist organizations should not be allowed to be nested in Syria. We believe that international society need to have a joint stance via Daesh and PKK-YPG, and in such institutions, the safety concerns of Turkey should be respected by each and every party and respected. Today, distinguished members of the press, we also took the initiatives in Gaza and the latest steps status quo. And of course, the ceasefire needs to be permanent, and the relevant steps following this need to be taken. The possible there is deep concern that the war could be reinitiated, and we cannot allow a new genocide to be allowed. On the other hand, the attacks vis-a-vis West Bank should not be allowed. On the other hand, a forced migration of Palestinians from their own soil cannot be allowed, and such initiatives are doomed to be unsuccessful. The countries of the region should need a joint stance, and it is actually satisfying to see the Russian Federation has the same understanding on this point. The Israel attacks vis-a-vis Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria needs to be met with a joint stance via the international society. This is the only way of a permanent peace and safety and security of the Middle East. Distinguished members of the press, the issues are actually putting forward the depth and the strategic importance of the relations between Turkey and the Russian Federation. Mutual understanding and constructive dialogue will continue to be strengthened, and in the coming days, both in relation to bilateral and regional and international issues, the close dialogue will be continued. I will once again say welcome to the delegation and to Foreign Minister Lavrov, and leave the floor to him. The floor is yours, sir.
Спасибо большое, уважаемые.
Thank you very much, distinguished members of the press. First of all, on behalf of the delegation and myself, I would like to say and express my gratitude to Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan and to his accompanying delegation. We had a wide spectrum of issues that we discussed in relation to the issues that we discussed. Thank you very much for the warm welcome that you have extended. The Russian Federation, with pleasure, despite the international tensions, is seeing that there is a constructive dialogue between Turkey and the Russian Federation. President Putin and President Erdogan is in constant contact. Apart from the telephone diplomacy, they had two face-to-face contacts last year, both during the June meeting in Astana, in the Shanghai organization, and also in Kazan during the BRICS meeting. These were the two bilateral meetings. The targets that were put forward by the presidents have been adopted by the foreign ministries as well as the other institutions like the defense ministries and our intelligence institutions. Of course, with the Foreign Minister Fidan, we discussed and we have been discussing these issues for hours at end, the bilateral issues as well as at the regional platforms. Our recent meetings was in Johannesburg in the G20 platform, and we also attach great importance to the meeting between the parliaments in September. The Speaker of the Turkish National Assembly, Numan Kurtulmuş, paid a visit to the Russian Federation and was received by President Putin and gave a speech at the Federal Assembly and also at the Foreign Ministry Academy. And in the coming days, the Speaker of the Federal Assembly, Matvienko, is going to pay a visit to Ankara. On the other hand, we do attach great importance to the development of the bilateral trade volume, both in relation to energy as well as the bilateral interests in the banking sector and the finance sector, the cooperation in the industry, in the transportation and logistics, as well as the tourism were issues that we discussed. Also, we discussed the strategic issues, for instance, the nuclear power plant in Akkuyu were issues that we discussed. Side by side, all our colleagues have been working in close cooperation so that these reactors could be initiated and operated. The construction of these 4 reactors are continuing on a 24-hour basis. And of course, for new initiatives, including the atomic energy, we discussed possible cooperation in these areas. On the other hand, the Turkish Stream and Blue Stream were issues that we discussed, were issues because from time to time the Kyiv regime has been imposing terrorist attacks, making these pipelines inoperable. These are really important for Turkey because the pipelines need to be operated with no problem at all, so that these pipelines are operated with no problem whatsoever through Turkey. This is not important for the strengthening of the natural gas, but this is also important for the end users in Turkey. Therefore, we have been informing the Turkish side, and we have also informed the Turkish side in relation to the contact between the Russian side and the USA. I informed the minister about the results of these negotiations, and in the end, we also discussed the new opportunities overlooking some of the clashes. At least we have now a normal dialogue, and we discussed, of course, whether we can now overlook some of these clashes. We will continue this dialogue with the American partners. On the other hand, with the minister, we had a very comprehensive dialogue with the minister, the international issues, for instance, the situation around Ukraine. We continue to keep our position. We have not changed our position. And we now see more realistic approaches. Many countries are more understanding. Unless we have a long-term permanent peace, the initial reasons for this war, unless we eliminate these, this will not be ending. On the other hand, we also discussed the clashes around the Palestine issue. We discussed these. On the other hand, we discussed the end for this war and the negotiations both within the United Nations, declaration and the establishment of the state of Palestine and the decision of the United Nations. And we know that this can be the only way to establish peace and security. On the other hand, the issue of Syria between our countries and the fact that we attach great importance to working together for the stability and safety of Syria. We also discussed the situation in Syria, and we discussed safety and security and the infrastructure of transportation lines. And on the other hand, the international platform of 3+3, so three republics of Southern Caucasus and three neighbors, Turkey, Russia, and Iran. This is a very beneficial contact to be established. We believe that our contact in this area is going to be continuing. And I do hope that this is going to be a multilateral platform to be establishing cooperation in this area. We will take several questions. The first question is from Al Jazeera, from Sinem. Thank you very much. My first question is to Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. Turkey, especially through the Black Sea grain deal, played a very important mediation role between Russia and Ukraine. During this period, what kind of a role could Turkey play in relation to the negotiations? Turkey also plays a mediation role in many different areas of the world. To what extent can you benefit? Also, Ukrainian President Zelensky was in Ankara, and he asked for some security guarantees in relation to the solution of this issue. What are these guarantees? To what extent? And are these guarantees realistic? This is my question to Foreign Minister Fidan. My question to Foreign Minister Lavrov is what could be the contribution of Turkey in the negotiations between Russian Federation and USA? Can Turkey host such peace negotiations? Apart from this, the international security guarantees, what are your opinions about these demands of President Zelensky? And he also mentioned that Europe should be intervening in these negotiations. What is your approach to the intervention of third parties? I can only say the following. I can once again verify our position because we have not changed our position. The individual, the persona that you have mentioned, he is changing his position constantly. And the understanding European countries is also very difficult because their position is not permanent. They're constantly changing their positions as well. Their ideas might also be changing constantly. In that sense, the position of USA is stable, and it's just reappearing. And they don't say that they want to have a contact line and then they want to have a negotiation. That's not what they say. In April 2022, this is what we discussed in Istanbul, and we had actually reached an agreement in Istanbul. Those principles were offered to us by the Ukrainian side. And then with goodwill, they asked from us that our armies should stop, and they actually wanted the armies to retract. And this was what we did. We actually pulled back to a certain extent. But in the end, the West, with the order of Prime Minister Johnson of Great Britain, they banned the signing of this agreement. They wanted Ukraine to continue war. They wanted Russia to weaken. They wanted arms to be given, and they continued this war. And when they wanted this war to continue until Russia was defeated with a strategic manner. So we're not taking into consideration the recommendations of the other side. We, with Ukraine and with Europe, we are actually open to negotiations with all sides who are open to discuss this with goodwill, who want to reach peace. This is what President Putin said. These clashes will and this war will only end when there is a satisfactory result for the Russian side. Of course, the reality in the field is going to take into consideration. So there is a Nazi regime in Kyiv that were adopting certain legislation, and this legislation banned the Russian language. The language of education of Russian was banned for press, for culture. So using Russian language was banned. And they also banned the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. So this was not for the Crimean citizens. They actually made their decision in 2014. So Crimea made their decision in 2014. So these other regions made their choice. So the Ukrainian citizens in the other regions did not want to live under this regime. And that regime actually wanted to ban anything Russian, distract any Russian presence, the cities, the factories, the ports. They wanted to distract anything that was Russian. Therefore, the citizens made a choice. When you look at the Russian constitution, they actually get this right from international law. So they need to respect this reality. All the parties need to respect this reality. So Ukraine should not be a member of NATO. This is an inevitable condition. This is a must. And President Trump declared that trying to make Ukraine a member of NATO was a mistake. And he said that if he were a president, this line would not have continued. So this crisis would not have occurred if he were president. This is what President Trump said. So trying to make Ukraine a part of NATO, this is actually one of the reasons of the start of this war. So one of the advisors of President Trump indicated that this was actually a war that was provoked, and the party that provoked was not Russian Federation. So Washington and the Brussels bureaucracy prepared for this war for long years. And the second reason is actually a genocide. Russians and Russian-speaking people, the Ukrainian people who lived in the southeast, were actually subject to a genocide. They had a legitimate election and they wanted to be back to the Russian Federation. Talking about these security guarantees, actually in April 2022, when we met in Istanbul, when we spoke about the security guarantees, both Turkey and Germany and also the members of the United Nations Security Council, this was written in detail as to how this was going to take place. It was there. The Ukrainian side had formulated these guarantees. They were not going to be part of a bloc. The West had banned that. So how is this going to be resolved in the end? Is it going to be the Ukrainian administration? Are they actually capable of this? Are they interested in this? Are they going to actually do more negotiations, and are they trying to earn more money out of this? So the Biden administration actually poured incredible amounts of money. Distinguished members of the press, as you know, President Erdogan is very sensitive on the issue of ending the war between Russian Federation and Ukraine. And Turkey has been working since the very beginning of the war to end this war. In the recent days, there have been discussions between America and the Russian Federation, and the security guarantees are issues that we closely follow. In principle, Turkey is ready to take all steps that is going to contribute to peace. But coming to this specific issue, my counterpart, Foreign Minister Lavrov, indicated this. We do not know what kind of a picture we will have in front of us. And after we make this technical preparations, our president is going to make a decision on this. But of course, we need to follow these deliberations closely. Turkey has always been ready to play a facilitative role, and we are playing this mediative roles. There are issues that we share with the public, that we do not share with the public. Our aim is to end this destructive role at the earliest possible area. The second question is going to be from Zvezda TV. Foreign Minister Lavrov, my first question is to you. Somebody said during the Russia-US negotiations that the Istanbul talks is or can be the basis of the resolution of this clashes, this war. Can you say something? And my second question is to Hakan Fidan. I think there has been an invitation to become a partner to BRICS. Is this format continuing? Is this cooperation counting? And can this be a threat to Ankara? Coming to this statement of Mr. Stevens about April 2022. Of course, this could be the basis. I did not hear this, but I can verify the following. This is something that President Putin has been sharing repeatedly. President has been repeating this. We were in Istanbul, and we were on the verge of initialing this agreement, but Boris Johnson banned us from signing this agreement. And at the time, the head of the Ukrainian delegation was also the chair of the political party of Serving the People. He said that this was right. We were ready to sign the agreement 3 years ago, but they banned us from signing this agreement. And the regime and also the Brussels bureaucracy, the Washington bureaucracy, banned us. So the principle was that we withdraw from being a member of NATO. There are not going to be military bases. We will not do any military maneuvers with the participation of foreign countries, and we will have international guarantees in terms of security. Germany, Turkey, and other countries that would ask for it. So what did happen? This did not take place. This was destroyed. And they said, okay, let's wait and see how this war is going to evolve. They waited and they saw. So coming to the negotiations with America, after the meetings in Riyadh, we came to the following understanding. The establishment of the dialogue channels covering all topics was what we agreed on. On the other hand, in relation to international issues, the Ukrainian party, of course, America is also going to identify a special representative both on Ukraine and also Middle East. But maybe the most simple side, and this was our proposal, was the normalization of the embassies, so that we can revive the embassies in Washington and in Moscow. Last week we had 2 technical meetings, and this week we will have comprehensive consultations, and we do hope that we will not have artificial obstacles, and we will see that we will not have democratic obstacles appearing before us. Distinguished colleagues, coming to the questions about BRICS, as you know, Turkey, as a sovereign country, is attaching great importance to international economic cooperation. And in today's world, economic cooperation has to be set on concrete infrastructure. And if you do not have this, you cannot resist economic crisis and you cannot reach your development targets. Therefore, Turkey is attaching great importance to economic cooperation, starting from European Union. So with EU, as you know, we have a long journey of being a full member. But recently, although this is not declared very clearly because of the identity policies of EU, European Union has been experiencing some problems pertaining to including a large Muslim country, and the full membership has come to more or less a frozen status. So nobody is declaring this very clearly, but this is the reality. But we have a balanced export-import relationship. We have commercial relationships that are ongoing, but we have other global economic cooperation platforms that we pay interest in. And our president has a large and extended vision. BRICS is one of them, and we pay interest in this, and our interest has been very close. But as far as we understand, BRICS has a new institutionalization, and they have now frozen their status of new membership, and they have not proposed us a membership status. Therefore, we are closing the we are following the developments closely. But contrary to the European Union, the composition of BRICS is more comprehensive, and they have various ranks, various religions, various civilizations that covers Muslims, Christians, Hindu, black, white, very different races, ethnics, and religious compositions, and that's the very different compositions. Hopefully, we will see a much more institutionalized and a comprehensive economic initiative. The third question is from Russia Today. Foreign Minister Lavrov, how do you evaluate your future relationship with Damascus? And in relation to your military bases, what is the status of your military bases after the regime change? And of course, you're going to ask the military bases to the Syrian regime and even to the Syrian people whether the American military bases are going to exist there or not. Before the regime change, the American soldiers played a negative role there, and they were in Syrian soil without any legitimate invitation. On the other hand, they continue to be in the most productive soils, both in relation to food production, oil production, and in relation to benefiting from the revenue. And they were selling it through unlawful manner, and they were actually confiscating the income of the Syrian people. So the northeast part was the area where they were more active. And the main aim was actually supporting the Kurdish separatists. Now, how the Syrian regime is going to approach to this issue, how they are approaching to this fact, and also how an assembly where all the Syrian people is going to be represented. This is going to be a new process, and this is going to be about the future of the Syrian people, and of course how all the ethnic and different sects are going to be represented. This is going to be the decision of the Syrian regime. On the other hand, if we see a tendency, we will be evaluating this positively as well. It's not just Damascus. Of course, Foreign Minister Fidan also mentioned in his comments territorial integrity and the unity of Syria is very important. He mentioned this. Syria with peaceful measures is important. Next question. My question is to Foreign Minister Fidan. Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, mentioned that they're not going to allow Israel forces are not going to be allowed. Netanyahu indicated that Israel soldiers are going to be staying in the Golan Heights for an indeterminate period. Also, Israel is attacking civilians in the West Bank in an increasing manner. What are your assessments about these statements? Distinguished members of the press, Turkey's stance and policy is very clear. Our president is very clear on this position in each and every point. And that is the following. The Palestinians should have their own state. The Israelis should have their own state. And all the countries of the region should live in peace. Nobody should have an attack on the territory of the other. Actually, since the initiation of the Gaza crisis, we initiated that this could be an opportunity. And this two-state solution is now an even more important opportunity. Because if we have a two-state solution, the states of the region is ready to support this. This could be the initiation of the state of Palestine, and the Palestinians would have their own state, and the security guarantees that Israel has been seeking would be provided by the region's countries and the international society. But vis-a-vis the developments, what we saw that was Netanyahu government and the developments, they are using the developments for the expansionist policies of Israel. This is the occupation of Lebanon and the West Bank being provocated, being trying to be occupying this area. The Palestinians forced to migrate from Gaza. These are the current plans, but we know for many years now, Israel, for their own security, especially for bordering countries, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria, and in all these neighboring countries, the moment they see a weakness, they have a project to create this weakness. And even going beyond this, for the second tier countries, they actually worked closely with the USA so that there is no military power. They feel themselves insecure. They want to have a preventive policy, and the way through this is to have military attacks. And the way to overcome this is actually to have a pressuring policy, and of course to to the extent it's possible, they actually use their own power, and if they're not powerful enough, they use the American power. This is the policy they have been following. This policy is a very risky policy, and it is actually a policy that could be creating a pushback from the other side. And it is not a policy that serves to the security of Israel. So our recommendation is, while there is still an opportunity to actually refrain from these suicidal policies to Netanyahu's government and the international society to actually recommend to Netanyahu's government. On the other hand, you believe that you have taken everything under control, but in an unexpected moment, a crisis, a chaos would appear. We hope, while there is chance, they will return back from this policy. Thank you very much.